word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video, we are going to be talking about the Marvel Comics character, Kang the Conqueror. That's right, we're going to break this character down. We're going to try and talk about everything you need to know about this character in order to hold an intelligent conversation about him and more right now. But first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video, go ahead and Hulk smash that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's ponder the question. Who is Kang the Conqueror? Kang the Conqueror, real name Nathaniel Richards, first appeared in Fantastic Four number 19 in 1963 and was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Now, technically speaking, Kang is a weird character. He has existed across multiple timelines and instances in the Marvel Comics universe, and honestly, some things I say in this video may or may not contradict other things I also say later at other points in this video. Case in point, Kang's first appearance. Technically, it was in Fantastic Four number 19 in 1963, but that was under the guise of Pharaoh Rama Tut, an alias of Kang's. Kang the Conqueror, as we know him, wouldn't actually appear until Avengers Volume 1, number 8 in 1964. Just to even further prove how weird and convoluted Kang's publication history is, it's widely accepted that each time we've seen Kang time travel, it creates a divergent version of the original Kang, or as he is often called, Kang Prime of Earth 6311, or as they say in the MCU now, in the Disney Plus Loki series, a variant. Nathaniel Richards has existed across time and the multiverse under various names other than Rama Tut. He has been known in some corners of time and space as Iron Lad or as the Scarlet Centurion. He's also been known as the character Immortus or even Kid Immortus. He's also been known as Mr. Griffin. All that aside, we're going to primarily focus on Kang Prime, who hails from Earth 6311. All that aside, Kang himself hails originally from the 30th century, which is considered to be a utopian timeline. This is a world that has never experienced the Dark Ages as Earth 616 had. It has advanced in the ways of technology and sciences and politics to be, for all intents and purposes, the perfect timeline. Kang would develop and master the science of time travel, which he used to travel into the past, where he used his advanced technology to cement himself as the most powerful pharaoh in ancient Egypt. This was when he was known as Pharaoh Rama Tut, as I mentioned earlier, and he primarily acted as a Fantastic Four villain. He would then later try to return home to his 30th century after his defeat at the hands of the Fantastic Four, only to experience an equipment failure on his ship. He went too far into the future, landing in the year 4000, an era of war and destruction where its people still benefited from the scientific and technological advances that Kang knew in the year 3000, but without the intelligence or wisdom to use them wisely. Kang would go on to conquer this time period as well, bringing the barbaric savages to heel and making them his slaves. And with all this power at his disposal, Kang then repaired his ship and plotted course to conquer the 20th century as well. This is when we witness his first encounter with the Avengers. Kang has no actual superpowers to speak of that are the result of birth or due to any genetic tampering. He is simply a normal human being with an incredibly superior intellect compared to the minds of the present day. He has mastered the usage of advanced technology in his own 30th century, as well as even far more advanced technology from the 40th century. He even possesses technology more advanced than anything Reed Richards or Dr. Doom or even Tony Stark could could ever hope to invent. He's also pioneered major advancements in time travel and has managed to make use of technology from any era in the time stream, as well as the scientific disciplines of any era that has ever existed. He's also made great strides in the area of robotics and has created incredibly powerful automatons like the Growing Man Stimuloids, robots capable of increasing their size the more they are attacked due to absorbing kinetic energy. If that weren't enough, Kang possesses the knowledge and experience of all Kangs across the multiverse. This is largely thanks to the Council of Kangs. Aside from being incredibly intelligent, Kang is also very gifted in the political arena and as a battlefield strategist. He's managed to successfully govern a society of people, as well as being more than capable of dominating an entire society of people with little to no effort in a matter of days. His first conquest took him only a week from the day he created his iconic power suit that he's known for wearing. He's also been able to make use of his intelligence to master combat tactics and various hand-to-hand combat forms, allowing him to retain a multitude of techniques that have allowed him to go toe-to-toe with Marvel's greatest fighters. He's even managed to fight Captain America to a no contest and has held his own against entire armies of soldiers with advanced technology single-handedly. Even when his back is against the wall and/or he is outmatched, Kang never backs down. He has no quit in him and will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. Even when he is faced with certain failure, he will either stay the course or course correct in a way to a better solution if necessary. One thing Kang will never do is give up. Proof of this is when Kang did everything in his power to stop the Timekeepers from orchestrating his transformation into the Immortus persona. This is a persona that is, for all intents and purposes, probably one of Kang's more dastardly and devious personas. However, Immortus is more prone to work with the Avengers than against them, even though when he does so, it's usually for reasons that are incredibly self-serving. These actions ultimately led to Immortus becoming a separate entity from Kang, but this also meant Kang changed his own destiny, as he was fated to become Immortus eventually. Beyond his vast intellect and mental talents, he possesses a physiology that is different from present-day humans due to the humans in the 30th century becoming immune to radiation as well as being longer lived. The humans of this time aged slower, and despite only appearing to be in his early to mid-40s, he's actually closer to being in his mid-70s. Kang's bread and butter is his advanced power suit based on 30th century technology and bolstered by metals and other components from the 40th century. His armor is considered to be neurokinetic, meaning it responds to his desires, even his subconscious thoughts. He doesn't have to tell his armor to do anything. He only needs to think about what he wants, and if it's within his suit's capabilities, it will accomplish it. If he wishes to fly, his suit enables him to do so. If he wishes to fire concussive blasts from his hands, his suit will accomplish this as well. His armor allows him to lift up to 5 tons effortlessly. It's also outfitted with anti-gravity tech that can make anything he wishes weightless, so long as it doesn't weigh more than 2.2 tons, meaning he doesn't even have to exert any of the armor's strength capabilities until he absolutely has to. His suit also blankets him in a force field that can cover anywhere from 2 feet from his body up to 20 feet away from him. This force field allows him to withstand the raw force of not only a nuclear bomb at point-blank range, but even the brute power of the Hulk or Thor's lightning. He can also fire off concussive bolts of energy that have an impact force of several tons of explosives, and he can unleash a powerful electric shock from his body that can knock all but the most durable of beings on their ass. He can also summon other forms of weaponry to appear on his person. Anything that exists in the time stream can be brought to him instantaneously, whether it be swords from ancient China, pulse rifles from the 30th century, or even modern-day firearms and explosives. He can call them to himself at will. Kang also possesses a built-in time-traveling device that allows him to traverse the time stream on the fly. If he doesn't feel like time traveling, he can also make usage of a hover pad that he can summon using his suit to carry him wherever he likes. He also has access to a special time-traveling ship that can travel the time stream, the multiverse, and space itself, Another mode of transportation he also possesses that allows him to travel time is his Light of the Century sphere. It works not only as a transport, but he can even use it to trap his victims. He has a built-in video communication system in his gauntlet that lets him talk to anyone he wishes, and food and water of no concern for him since his suit provides him at least 30 days worth of sustenance while he's out time traveling. It also keeps him protected from hazardous environments and supplies him with fresh air. It even disposes of his bodily waste for him, so if he needs to drop a deuce in the middle of a fight, boom, no one would even notice. His suit once possessed the ability to transfer his essence to a clone body in the event of his untimely death. This is an ability that comes and goes depending on who the writer is at the time, but Kang has used this ability on more than a few occasions to escape death, and even has sometimes killed himself just to escape from uncertain doom to have his essence transfer to a clone body so that he can make his triumphant return later. Contrary to popular belief, Kang is not the father of Reed Richards. Kang is aware of rumors regarding this, which is something that is revealed in Doctor Doom number 6. In this same issue, he also debunks the rumor that he is Dr. Doom's father. Nathaniel Richards is more accurately believed to be a descendant of Reed Richards. There's even an issue of What If that ponders the possibility of Nathaniel Richards being a descendant of Dr. Doom instead. It's even something that's brought up in Avengers Volume 1, number 269. It is said that a stranger came to our world. He was, he said, a scientist. He took a wife, begat a son, and pulled a ruined Earth back from the brink of oblivion. He was my ancestor and, as I was to one day learn, a time traveler from your reality. This stranger from the past is largely believed to be Reed Richards. Other than his divergent self, Immortus, Kang is the only known time traveler who has been able to successfully travel through time without creating divergences in the overall time stream. However, every time he travels to the past, he does create a divergent version of himself. Kang is personally responsible for the formation of the Young Avengers, thanks to his going back in time to visit his teenage self and telling the younger Nathaniel Richards about the man he would eventually become. This was supposed to galvanize a young Nathaniel Richards into embracing his future and becoming Kang the Conqueror earlier in life. But instead, this scared the shit out of Nathaniel and led to him taking the power armor that Kang gave him prematurely and allowed him to become the hero, Iron Lad, instead. Iron Lad would then travel back to the 21st century to form the Young Avengers to prepare them for the coming of Kang the Conqueror. Dr. Doom is the character who, oddly enough, inspired Nathaniel Richards to give up being Rama Tut after the Fantastic Four defeated him, deciding instead to be more like Dr. Doom himself. This is how the Scarlet Centurion persona was originally created, but it only took one defeat at the hands of the Avengers to make him drop that title as well, before becoming Kang the Conqueror proper. People often wonder why a man who can time travel would be obsessed with taking over the past when he's already dominated the future. The reason for this is because Kang learned of a prophecy about a celestial Madonna who would one day give birth to the most powerful being in existence during the 20th century. His goal was to be the one to see that child. Now, we all know later that that celestial Madonna would be revealed to be the Guardians of the Galaxy character, Mantis. And that powerful son, we would later learn, would be the result of Mantis giving birth to a child sired by one of the Katati who took on the guise of her former dead lover, the swordsman. And that child, we would later learn, especially during the pages of Empire, would be the character Sequoia. Often thought to be a heartless bastard, Kang does have deep feelings for Princess Ravonna Renslayer, a woman who lived in the 40th century that he loved so much that he actually allowed Ravonna's father to keep his kingdom, if only to get closer to Ravonna and manipulate her into becoming his wife. Ravonna would even come to love Kang the Conqueror to the point that she sacrificed herself, taking a blaster shot from a character named Baltog that was meant for Kang. This led to him having a very Mr. Freeze moment where he placed her in suspended animation until he could find a way to save her life. He loved her deeply, but not enough to save her life when he was given the choice of choosing the power over life for his love or death for the Avengers by the Grand Master. He chose death for the Avengers. The reasoning behind this actually comes from a prior instance where Kang had seemingly been killed during a confrontation with Thor, but was in fact sent to Limbo instead. He would ultimately discover Immortus' stronghold, who, at the time, he didn't realize was a future version of himself. He used the technology of his Immortus persona to remove Ravonna from the time stream at the precise moment that she would have been killed trying to save his life, leading to the creation of a divergent reality where Kang was killed instead of Ravonna. And this is something that strongly affected him, as he found watching his own death intensely terrifying. Speaking of Ravonna, there is an instance where we learn that there are divergent versions of this character, and one of them would go by the nickname Revelation, and then later she would go on to be called Temptress. She actually turned on Kang, and with the help of the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, she orchestrated Kang's downfall. However, she also brought out a tender moment from Kang when she challenged him one-on-one, with the stipulations being that if Kang won the fight, that she would surrender herself to him, and that if she won, Kang would allow her to kill him. During this fight, Thor threw his hammer Mjolnir at a barrier that was blocking them from the rest of the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, but the power of Mjolnir was so strong that it crushed the barrier and beelined for Ravonna, and Kang, recognizing that she would not be able to withstand the force of Thor's hammer hitting her in the chest, he instead sacrificed himself the way that she had sacrificed herself for him, taking the full brunt of Thor's hammer to his chest, which crippled him and would ultimately kill him. However, Ravonna would put him in suspended animation and would operate under the guise of Kang to preserve his empire, something that initially she only did because she wanted to revive him and defeat him one-on-one in a fair fight. However, we later learn that time travel heals all wounds, as due to the events that followed after her posing as Kang and protecting his empire from the cross-time Kangs, as well as the monstrous Alioth. When Kang was restored to life, she did not kill him as she originally intended, but instead they let bygones be bygones and resume their relationship, returning to the 41st century and ruling side by side. This wouldn't last, however, and he would eventually become bored with bureaucracy and left Ravonna in charge of their empire, and himself returning to ancient Egypt to resume his guise as Rama Tut. During his time in Limbo, he created the Legion of the Unliving. With the help of Immortus, these were a group of beings who were about to die but were removed from their respective times right before their deaths. These members included the original Human Torch android, Baron Heinrich Zemo, Midnight, Wonder Man, the Flying Dutchman's ghost, and Frankenstein's monster. There would be multiple versions of the Legion of the Unliving after this, but none of them were formed by Kang or had anything to do with him. During the events of Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, Kang was picked by the Beyonder to fight on Battleworld alongside Dr. Doom, as well as other villains. This led to Kang and Doom being at odds with one another, betraying one another, and vying for control of the villain's team, but ultimately Doom would use Ultron to atomize Kang, effectively killing him, but would later resurrect Kang and return him to his appropriate time using the power of the Beyonder. Despite this, Kang has worked with Dr. Doom on more than one occasion. Some of their most notable alliances were during Infinity War, where they worked behind the scenes to uncover the power behind the character Magus, and during Doom's own solo series. It is important to note that every time they have ever worked together, they've planned on betraying one another once either got what they wanted. In Doom's solo series, Kang only helped Doom because helping him would set up an easy win for him in 200 years' time. Though Kang hasn't had many interactions with the X-Men, he does have a connection to the X-Man Angel, as well as the mutant Apocalypse. Kang learned of Angel and Ichizumi's twin children, Uriel and Iman, dubbed the Apocalypse Twins. Kang viewed the children as being detrimental to his future endeavors and decided to abduct them, taking them to the year 4145 and raising them as his own children, feeding them propaganda about how mutants and humans will never live in peace with each other and that mutant supremacy was a pipe dream. To further his point, he took them to Earth 13,044, where they were forced to live in the X-Men villain Ahab's mutant concentration camps, and the horrors they faced there turned them into worse monsters than Kang ever could. He would also travel back in time under the guise of Rama Tut and manipulate the mutant Apocalypse, gassing his head up with half-truths about how Apocalypse would one day rule all of the world, even manipulating him into a conflict with Thor that would even affect one of Wolverine's ancestors, Folkburn Logan. Kang has appeared in various forms of media throughout the years, first popping up in an episode of the 1967 Fantastic Four animated series as Rama Tut, where he was voiced by Mike Rowe. He wouldn't appear in another animated series until Avengers United They Stand in 1999 during the appropriately titled episode, Kang, where he's voiced by Ken Kramer. He would later make a non-speaking appearance as Rama Tut in the animated series X-Men Evolution, and then Kang would make multiple appearances in the animated series Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, where he's voiced by John Adams. He would later return for multiple episodes in the Avengers Assembled animated series, this time voiced by Steve Blum. He would also make an appearance in the anime Marvel Future Avengers, voiced by Jiro Saito in the Japanese language version, and again by Steve Blum in the English dub. Kang has a song dedicated to him by the band Ukla the Mock on their album Versus Evil from 2013, simply titled Kang the Conqueror. Kang has also appeared in several video games, namely the arcade adaptation of Pride of the X-Men, known as X-Men the Arcade Game, where he is one of its many bosses, only this time he's not Kang, but Rama Tut. He's also appeared in the Facebook game Avengers Alliance, the mobile game Marvel Contest of Champions, as well as being the principal villain in LEGO Marvel Superheroes 2, where he's voiced by Peter Serafinowicz. God help you if you haven't watched the season finale of Loki Season 1 by this point that this video has come out, but I'm about to spoil something in regards to Kang the Conqueror that appears in that series, so skip ahead a minute or two if you don't want to know what it is. He's recently made his triumphant first appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, played by Jonathan Majors, who many of you may know from the recently canceled hit HBO series Lovecraft Country. Jonathan Majors shows up in the Disney Plus series Loki, where he arrives in the season finale as the character He Who Remains, a character who originally has no ties to Kang proper in the comics, but acts as the mastermind behind the Time Variance Authority. Here it is revealed that he has the exact same origins as Nathaniel Richards of the Marvel Comics universe, in that he's already created a Council of Kangs and already stopped a prior multiversal war, which is very likely a nod to Secret Wars. He is keenly aware of the more villainous versions of himself from across the multiverse, and that he created the TVA to keep these evil versions of himself from becoming threats, but ultimately this fails as we learn the evil version of himself, Kang the Conqueror, has won. This will hardly be the last time we see Jonathan Majors in the MCU, as he will be portraying Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, as well as likely returning as Kang in Loki Season 2, among other versions of the character. For recommended reading, I'm going to recommend that you read Avengers Volume 1, Number 8, if you want to see Kang's first appearance as Kang the Conqueror proper. I'm also going to recommend you check out Avengers Volume 1, number 267 through 269 for a more revised and more streamlined version of Kang's origins, as well as witnessing Immortus playing his trap card against Kang. I'm also going to recommend you check out Avengers Forever, number 1 through 12, where we witness the Avengers take on the Timekeepers and Kang and Immortus have their brawl for it all. I'm also going to recommend you check out Doctor Doom Volume 1, number 1 through 6 to witness Doom and Kang quotey fingers working together. And last but most certainly not least, I'm not going to get out of this video without recommending Young Avengers Volume 1, number 1 through 5 to witness Kang act accidentally create one of the coolest Avengers rosters you'll ever see. All that aside, Kang is a very awesome character. I know, yes, in some ways he can kind of be a bit of a joke. He is not always successful for a guy who is named Kang the Conqueror. It seems like he always winds up losing to the Avengers no matter how great or ridiculous his plans seem to be, but I feel like he's also a character that, regardless of how ridiculous he looks and regardless of how convoluted his history is, I do find him incredibly interesting. I don't think he is the most effective villain in the comics, but you definitely can't say that Kang has not left his mark on the Avengers, and I would even say the Fantastic Four to some degree or another. And he is responsible for giving us the Young Avengers, so I mean, I can't hate on the guy. And I'm pretty sure we're probably gonna see this character get a little bit more of a glow up, especially considering that he's coming to the MCU. All that aside, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button, and don't forget to share the video all over the internet and with all your friends so that they can know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to Kang the Conqueror. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know what you think about the character Kang the Conqueror. Have you always known about him, or are you today years old finding out about him? Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.